Today we're making history as I take over the grid with a few friends from around the world while Scott Kelby is away. Our topic is all about capturing stunning travel photographs. To help me, we have the UK travel photographer himself and co-founder of PhotoHound, Mathew Browne. From Texas, landscape photographer and educator Jim Nix, and on an undisclosed location, the set of The Chosen, Hollywood photographer Mike Kubeisy. Together, we'll talk about finding amazing destinations, gear and camera settings, the importance of quality memory cards, and creative editing. To add to this excitement, we have some fantastic prizes to give away. So buckle up and get ready. History is about to be made in 30 seconds.
The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Chrissy, welcome. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
So this is a very historic moment. While Scott and Erik are gone,
Yep.
he gave me the keys to his house, so to speak. And he told me I'm allowed to do anything I want as long as I clean up after myself and I don't hurt the staff members. So thank you guys so much for having us.
Vanelli's in the house.
All right, so what you notice here off to the right of me is I have some sunflowers.
Yes.
And I want to give that to Kelby, Scott, of course, and the whole KelbyOne crew. The sunflowers are the official sunflower, or the flower of Ukraine. And I wrote just a real quick little blurb. Golden blooms turn their face towards the sun's warm embrace, where the people of Ukraine stand with strength and pride in fields where sunflowers reside. So the sunflower is a symbol of strength and encouragement. These are wild ones. I wasn't going to get the really beautiful ones that they always have.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I love this because, like Ukraine, the war-torn areas, people could think, oh my God. But these flowers, to me, they still have their beauty. They're young, they're infant. You guys will have them for quite a while. And that's my way of just saying thank you to Scott and your team for the support you're showing Ukraine. So thank you so much.
Yes, of course. That was so sweet. Thank you.
You got it. Well, I'm excited about the show. She's our producer, which is amazing because we met many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And now here I am sitting next to her. I just think it's absolutely amazing.
It's so funny. I was thinking about the same thing because I was digging up old pictures and realized like we've known each other for 13 years.
Yep.
And
look at here are these pictures. God, you haven't changed. Yeah, and actually you were pregnant on both.
On two of them.
Yeah, but ironically, since we stopped Photoshop World, you haven't been pregnant. So I'm not saying Photoshop World caused, I'm just saying that maybe we need to bring back Photoshop World again so you can have a third child.
Oh, I'm good. No, but it's a chance for me to also publicly thank you for everything you've done because, I was telling the guys earlier that when I would take my students to Photoshop World, they always wanted to go to Midnight Madness. And, you have to wait in line at 6 a.m. in the morning. There's only 300 tickets, and you have to hope that you get them. But Vanelli, you just made such an impact on those kids and inspired them. And some of them have come to now actually do all this stuff in real life.
Exactly.
And so it's amazing what impact you can have on people and how it's funny how the world works because now we're here today sitting on set. Who would have ever thought?
Well, you and your husband both did so much with the children. You're both educators, and it was so neat. So when you did say you were applying for the position here as a producer for KelbyOne, of course I told Scott, oh my God, she has my undivided support for it. He said, well, Vanelli, we already hired her. So you got it all on your own with your skills and your abilities. And I just thought that was absolutely amazing. And I'm glad Scott can spot talent, which is also one of his gifts that he does.
Yeah. It's been fun. It's been a fun 5 years so far.
Well, great. So we have a great show today.
Yes, right? I'm so excited about your lineup. Vanelli has got different photographers that we're going to be Skyping in through today's show, and also giving a whole bunch of tips on how to make the most out of your travel experience. So I think that people will get a lot out of our show today.
Yep, and these are people who've helped me along the way. You know, and Scott, I can't thank you enough for having me here. What was it? In 2010, April of 2010 was the first episode of The Grid, and here we are 13 years later. He's been doing it nonstop, consistently all the way through, and made, you know, impacted millions of people. So it's awesome that we're here today doing this.
Yes.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah. So really quick, we do have some prizes that we're going to want to give away in today's show. So one of them is the Platypod gooseneck. So if you want to win any of these prizes, please put your name in the chat and we'll be sure to pick someone. We're also, here, why don't you tell them about this?
Oh, okay. Spur of the moment. Yeah. So we're going to be giving away a 1-year subscription with all the extensions for Luminar Neo. Thank you, Skylum, for doing that. We have 2 of these, right? To give away.
Yep.
So we have a couple of those. And then, do you want to do this?
No, you go for it.
Scott's travel book. All right. So for the travel photography book, again, these are things, if you're serious about your travel photography, we talked about this, laboring under correct knowledge, LUCK. And if you want to be really good at this, again, labor under correct knowledge, find the people that are doing what you want, and then last, light it, shoot it, retouch it. All right, this has been an incredible book that Scott shares with everyone. So these are lots of great prizes that we're giving away.
Plus, we've also got On One No Noise 2023 to give away as some lucky winner, and a V-flat to someone in the U.S. We can only ship that to the U.S. But if you would like to get a V-flat, you also can get a discount by going to vflatworld.com and use the code KelbyOne at checkout.
Awesome. And I was explicitly warned that I'm not allowed to give away Scott's car while he's away. So I won't do that, I promise.
I have the keys to the camera cage.
Awesome. All right. So producer, usually I have you in my ear telling me what we're next, and then you're next to me.
Well, initially we were going to try and bring on Scott and Erik, but they're just still running a little behind, so we're going to bring them on later in the show. We also do have some people all over the world joining us, saying hello. Do you want to give some shout outs?
I can't even see that far. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm so blind.
James Gordon Patterson is here from Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, James.
Nice.
Jerry Pless from Tacoma, Washington. And Tina from Oregon. Thanks for joining us today. Kendra Koski from South Dakota. AJ from Miami. Miami sounds nice right now. And Jesse. Hey, Jesse from Wisconsin. He was on the show just last week.
Nice. And all those locations are absolutely amazing for landscape photography. Not that Miami isn't, but all the other ones that they're talking about are absolutely amazing.
Well, I know that you have some stories that you're going to share with us on the show about some travel that you've done out west, right?
Yep.
And later we'll be bringing on Jim Nix for...
So first we're going to talk about Mathew Browne.
Yes.
And so he's a phenomenal travel photographer from the UK, well, South Wales. And he is also the co-founder of PhotoHound, which... Ironically, I took a photo, which I don't think we have, the platypod picture I did of, I'm not sure if I gave it to the guys, I know I have it here, but what ended up happening was I looked up, so I looked up on PhotoHound really cool locations to photograph in Scotland while I was there, and sure enough, they showed me this little alleyway, and I plopped my platypod down, took this shot, next thing you know it's on the cover of Platypod magazine, not the magazine, but their newsletter and their website. And I told Mathew about it. I was all excited, like I'm teaching him something new. And he goes, Vanelli, I'm the co-founder of this, and I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah, so here I thought I was going to teach him something really, really cool. And I felt like this big afterwards.
You're like, oh.
He's like, and you know the English with their sense of humor.
Their humor, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So Mathew's going to start off with that, and then Jim Nix will come along, and Jim Nix will talk about incredible gear he used when we were together in Iceland.
Yeah.
And not only the gear, but what camera settings he used, how he composed the shots, and that's just absolutely amazing. And that's one thing I do love about my position at Skylum is they let me be a photographer first and then photo editing second. And Jim is one of those. And then, of course, last, we'll talk my good friend, my brother in crime, Mike Kubeisy. He's on set. I can't say where. He's on the TV series The Chosen. And he actually gave us a video talking about memory cards.
Yep.
So we have a lot to
we do.
go through.
And so we are going to take a break. But before we do, I just want to mention that we do have a Lightroom conference coming up in 2 weeks. And I'm so excited for it. There's 12 instructors. And the schedule is jam-packed. I know that it's going to be a great conference. So I hope that some of you guys come and join us there.
Great.
So coming up next, we'll have Mathew Browne.
Awesome. Get ready, Matt.
Here we go now.
I don't have to tell you how great the camera is in your iPhone. It's really pretty amazing. And I know that a lot of people out there are really giving this a serious thought. Not only is their second camera, but often as their first camera. If you're brand new to the iPhone, I've got a brand new course I think is really gonna help. I'm gonna cover 20 different techniques. Stuff that you need to know, stuff to how to set up your camera, how to get the most out of it, and it's really gonna make a big difference. It's gonna make you fall in love. If you liked your phone camera before, now you're gonna love it. We're gonna cover a lot of ground. We're gonna be on location. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I hope you come and join me, and it's exclusively here at KelbyOne.
Hey, I'm Frederick Van Johnson. You can find me at frederickvan.com or thisweekinphoto.com. And today we're gonna dive into macro. We're gonna be going to the Florida Botanical Garden. That's where I am right now, doing a variety of photography on tiny subjects from flowers to succulents, cacti, to bugs, all kinds of things. We're gonna be diving into the ins and outs of photographing this stuff. We're also gonna be using gear that you may already have in your pocket right now, the iPhone. Surprisingly capable device, the iPhone, especially for macro photography. A lot of the iPhone models have built-in macro lenses. So we're gonna talk about that. What are the ideal ways to do that? What steps to avoid? All that stuff. We're gonna talk about all the gear that you need to do this kind of photography, but then we're gonna take everything into the studio and do post-processing. So you'll see from me taking the camera out of the bag all the way through to the finished product. We're also going to talk about the techniques and some advanced techniques using Lightroom and Photoshop. So come join me for this macro course on KelbyOne.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
Hey everyone, and we're back.
Yes.
So we have a special guest, like you said, Mathew Browne from the UK. Mathew, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, you look good as ever. How you doing, my man?
Oh, you're very charming, Vanelli. I'm doing well, thank you. Very pleased to be on with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to hear about some of the things you're going to talk about.
And I told them how, when I first met you, I didn't realize you were the co-founder of Photo Hound, and here I am trying trying to school you. Hey, look at this cool new app, and you're like, huh.
I had seen it before.
Great. So, all right. So, lay that incredible knowledge you have on us.
I will indeed. So I trust my.
Yep. Here's your screen.
Screen is up.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll look at these.
There it is. Okay. So I guess what I'm going to do is just give you a whistle-stop tour of what I do as a travel photographer to plan my shoots, and it'll sort of lead into why PhotoHound came into existence. So every time I'm planning a shoot, I find myself asking the same questions over and over again for every trip, right? So it's going to be, where is it that I want to shoot? When do I want to shoot it? And how am I going to go about shooting it in the first place? Okay, and each of those questions kind of divides up into sub-questions, I guess. So first things first, when I think about where it is I want to go, a couple of approaches for this. First of all, this may seem perhaps a little obvious, but I'll expand upon this point. The tourist board for wherever it is you're going, it is their job to sell you on a location, and they're going to have the best photographs of the most interesting locations in their region. So that's always my first port of call when I'm doing some research into what I'm going to shoot. To take things a little bit old school as well, postcards are a good way to do some research. They give you a sense of place, right? These are the things that you're sending home to your mum to say that you're having a wonderful time on your trip. And these are going to be the images that give somebody who isn't there a great sense of what that location has to offer. So postcards are perhaps a more traditional way of doing some of that homework, and a more modern way, of course, is social media. Now, one particular use case that I have for social media is using it to do recent scouting, I guess you could say, and I use Instagram for this. And it's appropriate, actually, that I've got Rome on the screen, because this relates to a shoot that I had in Rome. I wanted to get a lovely sunrise shot of the Roman Forum, set my alarm. I got up at silly o'clock and made my way there, only to find that it was covered in scaffolding. This happens a lot in Italy, of course. Had I had my wits about me, I could have gone on to Instagram and I could have seen the most recent shots taken there, and then I would see about 500 selfies, but in the background of those selfies I would see the scaffolding, and then I would know, okay, this shot at sunrise, or indeed at any time, probably isn't going to work. I should invest my time in the city at another location, or even have a lie-in, or whatever the case may be. When I think about where to go, then it leads me into some homework that I can do. With landscape locations, you need to think about where it is you're going to park. Do you need cash on you? Is there an entrance fee? Do you need to pre-book a ticket, for example? For commercial locations, you'll want to know opening hours. And the final point here is particularly relevant for cities now. It's checking tripod and camera policies. Now, I recently completed my second book, a photo book about London. Now, unfortunately, London is not the most welcoming city for photographers. Everywhere you go, it feels like somebody's tapping you on the shoulder and asking you to put your tripod away. Now, if you've done your homework, you'll know where it is you're going if they allow tripods. And if they don't allow tripods, that would be a nice use case to take something like a platypod with you that you can use instead of a tripod. But these things are always worth investigating, particularly in cities. You don't want to plan your whole day around getting this wonderful shot and turning up and discovering that you've got to store your tripod in a cloakroom or what have you, and you don't have a plan B in place. Incidentally, Vanelli, I know you've got Jim on later, the puffin photos for Jim. I know he loves his puffins. So now we've established where I'm going to take my shots. I want to think about when I want to be there. So first of all, I think about the times of year. Now, this might relate to seasons, particularly for landscape photographers. If you want your lovely autumn colors with the red and orange leaves, well, it's not going to happen in April, is it? So you need to plan your trip accordingly. Likewise, for nature photographers, going for plants and trees, you need to know when these things are going to be in bloom. Likewise, for wildlife, you want to know are the animals, when do they breed or nest or whatever the case may be. For cityscapes and architecture and all of this kind of stuff, particularly relating to travel photography, it's worth thinking about festivals. So things like Christmas and New Year. Chinese New Year is a great one, because you can get cities decorated. It's a bit of a lesser seen view when you capture them at specific times of year. So as well as the time of year, I think about the time of day that I want the shot as well. So, do I want the shot to happen at the golden hour or blue hour? These are typically the two times of day that we covet the most as photographers. Astrophotographers, of course, will want a nice, long, clear night for it. And when I'm on commercial shoots, I prefer to have as few people as possible in a scene, so I try to put myself in places where I'm going to encounter as few people as possible. And in cities, that's typically getting up very, very early and getting my shots in before everybody's woken up. And finally, when I think about when I want to be there, I think about the weather conditions also. Again, if I'm doing astrophotography, I'm looking for nice clear nights. When I'm doing landscapes, us landscape photographers really covet those foggy and misty conditions, so it's worth checking the forecast for that when it happens. And when you're in a city, you also need to be very aware for warnings for haze and smog. I was in Dubai a couple of months ago, and a couple of the shots that I'd planned in advance and had in mind and was looking forward to, unfortunately they didn't come off because on those particular days the conditions weren't ideal. So it's worth checking those things before you head out for your shoots on the day. Now, you will appreciate that is a lot of planning, and it's a lot of repetition as a travel photographer, and this is why we put together PhotoHound. This is a website and app that answers all of those questions for you. So it's not a gallery similar to Flickr or 500 pics or something like that. You can contribute to this website by sharing images, but you also share location information. And if you know where the good place is to plant your tripod or a good place to park and all of this sort of stuff, you can contribute that information to PhotoHound. Now, I know you mentioned that spot in Edinburgh, Vanelli. I believe this was it, right? The Venel viewpoint.
Exactly. Yes.
This is the one you found, right?
Yes.
So this is just an example of the kind of information you would get as well as the images for this spot. So, Vanelli, I hope this will ring some bells for you. This is what you saw when you were doing your homework. So you see at the top right there the essential information. It's free entry. It's not wheelchair accessible there because there are some steps, but minimal walking is required. Tripods can be freely used, and of course the important stuff is having that exact map marker, so you know exactly where you want to be for that image to happen. You can also click through to Google Maps and Waze and What 3 Words if you prefer to use those map applications to find your way to this spot. And as you go down the page, there's some other cool stuff. So it'll tell you more information, such as what gear is recommended, what conditions to look out for, and also important times of day at that location. So based on the latitude and longitude, it calculates when sunrise and sunset is going to happen for you. So if you want to get that lovely golden light, it's telling me today you want to be there, set up shop about 8:30 in the evening, and it'll be dusk by 20 to 10. Some other cool stuff that could be helpful to you as well. We give you a weather forecast, and we even give nearby webcams. So this can be useful to you if you're planning a shoot today, but you're not quite sure how the conditions are going to be. You can have a look at the nearby webcams, and that will tell you if the shot is going to be on for you.
Awesome.
And of
That
course,
is awesome.
once
We actually have some questions
you've
coming in
captured-
too.
Yep. Yeah, so
Oh,
let's
great.
go off for a couple
Yeah.
of questions.
Someone's wanting to know, do you have to pay for PhotoHound, and do you have to log in each time that you use it?
Good question. So there is a premium version of PhotoHound which has some extra features, but at its core, you can sign up for free. You can browse this information for free, and of course, I do hope we'll see some of your viewers there in due course.
Yeah, and then, I actually have a question before we take our next break, and that is, when you were talking about postcards, I never thought to use postcards as a resource to do your planning, and I was curious, when you say you use postcards, do you find them on the internet first and then work your way backwards, or is it meaning like when you go there, you're taking that postcard type picture?
A good question. So generally, I'll do a bit of research before leaving. So I'll see what kind of postcards you can get, on eBay and Amazon and all that kind of stuff. But generally, when I'm in a location as well, you'll be passing the tourist shops. It's always worth just taking a minute out of your day just to have a look and see what's there, because you may find some ideas and viewpoints that you didn't know existed.
Sure.
And it only takes a moment to have that look, but it can. You may end up coming home with an image you're really pleased with.
Well, you did some great tips.
I know that's again. I was fortunate because by using those tips when I went to Utah with Scott and a few others, I was able to pull those, use those tips to my advantage. A couple things, Matthew, that we talked about before, and we keep saying this: luck, laboring under correct knowledge, LUCK.
Correct.
If you're going to a location that you've never been to before, consider taking a photo tour.
Yeah.
Consider, like I have,
Yes.
I don't know if you guys in the control room, I have my top 3 that I would absolutely love to do this
like a
year and
workshop.
next year, right?
Yeah.
One is Scott Kelby. Scott's doing a London tour, which is going to be amazing in August.
Yep.
Up here it is. Yeah, so, and Mimo and Scott are doing that. I believe it's August 31st. Yep, August 31st through September 2nd. That would be awesome and absolutely amazing. And then Skylum is doing the Iceland tour.
Yeah, and someone in the chat also had said Iceland with Skylum was a great trip, so you must have done it once before too.
Yep, my buddy Nicholson. Yep, there he is,
Matt Nichols.
Yep, Matt Nichols. And then, so Iceland is actually going to be overlapping a little bit, which is August 24th through, I believe, the 1st. And I wouldn't mind hopping on a plane to quickly go see Scott and meet up with him in London. And then, of course, the last one, and I absolutely love Bobby and Lee. Bobby Lane and Lee Varus, they're doing one in Scotland. So, but what I'm getting at, and theirs is coming in the 2024, I believe they're doing theirs, is coming up in Scotland. Those are my dream ones that I want to do, because when I did go to Scotland, I had an assistant with me, Ellie, which you got to meet, And Ellie, thank God, drove, right, Matt? Because I'm not that great of a driver. Ellie drove us everywhere, and I was
No comment.
Yeah, and I was fortunate that Bobby and Lee were there scouting for this trip coming up.
Cool.
And so they told me which locations to hit.
That's
and
huge.
if it wasn't for them, I never would have done it. And of course, I pulled up PhotoHound and I got the shots from there. And my other buddy, McIntyre.
It seems
Gary
like it really
McIntyre was
helps
out.
do a lot of the legwork.
Exactly.
And so I'm sure people in our audience will love that.
Yep.
Okay, well, listen, we've got to take a break. Coming up next, we're going to have Scott and Erik
Nice.
join us, and we're also going to have Jim Nix. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Hey,
we
Matt,
appreciate
thank you.
coming on.
Say goodbye to your son
Thank
for
you.
me. Thanks.
I will indeed. Take care.
Bye. All right, guys.
The nighttime skies, twinkling heavily bodies. It's magical, it's romantic. And the solar winds, they're really singing. Can you hear them? Hey folks, Moose Peterson here. I want to take you to experience and see one of the greatest light shows known to man. Aurora Borealis, or the Northern Lights. Right now they're in an incredibly active cycle. They're absolutely gorgeous, and it's something everybody should experience and photograph in their lifetime. Well, how do you do that? Where do you go? When do you go? How do you bring back that incredible, gorgeous sky, that pulsing green wave? Well, I'm gonna do that a whole lot more in this class. I'm gonna take you along. We're gonna go out there and dance in those lights. And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna go in the digital darkroom and finish that light. So I wanted to invite you along on what's gonna be an amazing, incredible trip. One of those great adventures and classes on KelbyOne.
Hey everyone, Rick Salmon here. I am so excited about my latest KelbyOne class. It's on action photography. Now in this class, I'm going to show you how to photograph birds in flight, horses jumping, BMX bikers flying through the air with the greatest of ease, and dogs running at top speed. The class is jam-packed with tips, tricks, and techniques that you could apply to all types of action photography. And of course, I'm going to cover all the different lenses that you could use to tell your story. Now we're going to keep the fun going in the studio, where I'm going to show you some photo processing techniques. My friends, please join me for my latest class only on KelbyOne.com.
Hey guys, I'm Tuvi, and I'm going to show you two really cool products that we at VFlat World sell. So the first one is our Duo boards, which are double-sided, hyper-realistic backdrops for food and product photographers. They come in two sizes. This is the larger side. We have all different types of textures and designs. These are some of the new ones that came out recently, and they also, there's a bag option available for them. And our other product, which is what we actually started the company with, it's called a V-flat. It's a foldable V-flat, and it's used for portrait and studio photographers to control light on their subjects, to either add light with the white side or use the black side to subtract light, or even block like an unwanted window light coming in.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
Yeah, we don't hear you.
Hello, everyone, and we're back. Now we do have Scott and Erik.
Yes, we do. Scott and Erik
Yeah.
are in New York City for their workshop, and I talked them into Skyping in for us. So
Only a producer can get away with this. There he is. Hello, Scott.
hi, Scott. Maybe they can't hear us that well.
Yeah, do you want to tell them?
What's up?
Check. Can you hear me,
Hey, Scott, can you hear us okay? You're in New York City with all the cell phone.
It's probably loud.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we have Scott. There he is. Scott. Oh,
It doesn't sound like they can hear us. They hung up. I
Of
can
course,
hear it.
he's at a pizza place. He took me there in Utah.
Yeah.
His favorite, of course.
Carmine's, right?
Yes. So, yes, it just cracks me up. And of course, we were experimenting with pineapple on pizza. Yeah, I know. Don't even. Get
Oh,
started.
you mean on the pizza?
Yeah, on the pizza. So, all right. Well, we were going to have Scott and Erik in from. Want me to give them a call?
Oh, yeah, no. They'll let us know if they get them back
gotcha.
in the control room.
All right. Well, then you know what? Let's bring on Jim next because he's actually heading to the airport real soon.
Okay.
Yep. So, do we have Jim with us?
We'll
And
connect
Jim
with
is
him
going to
in a
talk
minute.
about some amazing shots he grabbed in Iceland, along with the camera settings, and with his take on how he would edit some of these photos.
Okay. So we'll connect with him in the control room. And I also know that we sometimes do a Lightroom and Photoshop tip on the
Yes.
show. So I had asked you if you could do one, but I think
And so
right now you're
Vanelli brings a Windows computer
Yeah.
to an all Mac environment. So
Yeah.
we're still working on this. But
Getting
I'll
your
tell you
machine.
what, it's the tip for Lightroom users or anyone that uses catalogs. The old philosophy of one or many catalogs has always been a huge topic. Now, in the old days, the way Lightroom's catalogs used to be is when you updated a new plugin or something with Lightroom, you have to update them on all the individual plugins or all the individual catalogs, so it was a pain in the neck.
Wow.
So nowadays, you have to make a decision. Do you want one Lightroom catalog, or do you want a project-based catalog?
right.
Now, project-based catalogs, just like your subfolders on your computer with all your images,
Yeah.
it could be a travel Lightroom catalog.
Okay.
It could be a model. If you do a lot of modeling, it could be a modeling catalog.
Like
It could be
portraits or something.
A portraits. It
Yeah.
could be macro photography, whatever it is. You decide, and then where do you store it? On your fastest hard drive, local,
Mm-hmm.
and under Lightroom, catalogs, and then in the proper order. So that was my Lightroom tip.
Is to break up your things into catalogs.
Exactly.
And so I have one question on that. Do you just do, in general, all travel, or do you break it up like by trip?
That's the beauty of this, is you can decide how you want to do that.
Yeah.
So you can take it to a sub-levels, or just say travel photography, here's all of my travel.
Yeah.
And so this way, everything stays nice
Super
and
organized.
separate. And if,
Okay.
God forbid, something happens, then you're not losing all your edits, you're only losing a set amount of edits that you can
Okay.
recover.
Huh. Very
All right.
good. Thank
Well,
you for the tip. And
We have Jim Nix now.
Yes.
All right. Jim, welcome.
Hi, Jim.
There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. And can you see me, I hope?
We can
Yes.
see you. And did you see that Mathew, of course, had to show a baby puffin? Thank you.
Well, you know, tastes like chicken.
Yes.
Oh,
All
my
right.
goodness.
See what I had to deal
Anyway,
with?
that's good.
I'm a victim
What's
here.
up?
Hello, Jim. All right, fire away, Jim.
Yeah, for sure. Let me share my screen and tell me when you can see that.
All right, the control room is going to get ready for it. Not there yet. All right,
Okay.
oh, there we are. We got it, Jim.
Okay. I'm in Luminar. Did you want me to just jump into a quick edit? You want to talk about
yeah.
this?
So let's do one of my favorite ones. Go ahead. Pull up that shot.
Okay.
There
How about
we
this
go.
one, Vanelli? You remember this fight?
Yes. So I love this shot. Now, as a portrait photographer, I walked straight out into that reflection pool and laid on the ground with a platypod to take that shot when Asia, one of my teammates, said, Vanelli, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to get this shot. Jim Nix told me this is where it is. And she said, no, it's over there. And so
Yeah.
I had no idea you could photograph this on an angle. But this is absolutely amazing, Jim. So tell us what you did with this. What were your settings?
Yeah, good question. Let me go back and take a look here. This was just it's 14 mil, so pretty wide because I was trying to capture as much as possible. And so that's the widest lens that I had on a 14 mil. Pretty tight aperture at f/16 and tripod mounted, of course. I was trying to get just a crisp shot. I mean, it's a 1/10 of a second, so just a quick snap. A little bit dark, but you know that's the beauty of Luminar. You can quickly edit and make adjustments if you want or need to. So you know, it's good stuff.
Gotcha.
You want me to do that real quick? I
Yeah,
can just
could you
do
please?
a quick on this. Yeah, for sure. I always start in develop. It just gives you lots of power over the light. And I'm always, obviously we run around with these little boxes that capture light. So I'm always starting with the light, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm doing my edits. And then maybe a little bit of temperature or tint, maybe a little bit of vibrance. I don't do a lot of color work there. Maybe a little bit of sharpening as well. But then I usually go up to one of my favorite tools, which is super contrast. And as the name implies, it gives you great control over contrast, but I love that it's separated into the 3 different tonal areas. So highlights, you can kind of see what's happening with the highlights there by adjusting the contrast.
Yeah, what I love is you're giving us concepts. So to keep, if you're not using Luminar Neo, if you're using Lightroom or another program, the concept is still the same. So you hit the develop, and then you went into, which I loved, the contrast part, and you're developing both the mid, the highlights, and the shadows.
Yeah, and it just really just gives you great control over it, right? So, and as you can see, it's pretty quick. I mean, we've already gone from that to that, and I haven't really done anything other than a couple of things here while I'm talking to you guys. So, the other thing that's cool is there's this Relight AI tool, which is great at just helping me brighten that foreground just a little bit, so I can just bump up brightness near and then increase the depth, which is kind of like pushing where this near is going to apply. So it's basically adjusting the foreground a little bit. So you can see I can quickly, it's almost like adding a linear gradient on the bottom of your image. So there it is before and then after. So, it has a nice impact on that. And, I would just take it pretty simply on this photo. I'd probably do a little bit with color. Like I love to use split toning. So I might come up here and just bump up a little bit in the highlights, maybe just do a little bit of color harmony, which is just an amazing collection of tools, right? Just a little bit of warmth, a little bit of brilliance, split color warmth, maybe actually cool down the cool color. So it creates, if you go left with cool, it makes them a little bit cooler. And then if I go right with warmth, it makes them a little bit warmer. And so I'm just playing off that contrast between the warm colors and the cool colors and just kind of accentuating that a little bit. And I think that looks pretty nice. Yep. The only thing I would do is probably go into HSL and pull back the saturation of that orange a little bit. So that's quick and easy to do as well. Let's pull that down. I don't want to overdo the amount of orange that's there in, that's called Vestrahorn.
Yeah.
So in kind of Southeast Iceland.
Yeah.
So
hey, could you do me a favor, Jim? Show them a mistake that you taught me that I needed to fix. Could you go overboard on Structure AI, just sharpen the daylights out of that image?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, this is what I did. Why? Because I could. It'll show you in a second. Oh, look at that. Yeah. See, I love that stuff. And Jim looked at me and just said, Vanelli, tone it down.
Yeah, you got to be careful with it. I mean, I love Structure AI, but I would use it here just like on the mountains and the reflection, and probably not in the sky or in the reflected sky.
So if you're using like Lightroom or another program where you can control the sharpness like we are just now, in fact, show that. So you taught me to get rid of it out of the sky.
Yeah.
So
I would just come in here and just like maybe paint it in, and it's running a little bit slow because we're doing this over the internet basically, but you can just quickly come in and paint in where you want this adjustment to apply. So it's effectively it's what you would call a local adjustment, right? So I'm just localizing and targeting that area with the structure so that I don't have that kind of crazy stormy kind of intense looking sky, which is cool on a lot of images. This one I'm going to go, and I'm not going to get it all right there, but this one I don't want to have that look. I like just like I was talking about with the warm and cool, kind of how they're different. I also like here how you have the soft and hard, kind of soft sky and soft reflected sky with a hard mountain and hard reflected mountain. So if I show you that before and after, you can see it's pretty significant about what can happen. And it also kind of brightens that area a little bit, which kind of helps.
Exactly. And honestly, Jim, look at that. To do before and after, look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Look at that.
Wow.
So here, as photographers, what we need to do is don't look at what you see, but look at what you want it to be. So if you go into a scene like this that Jim just showed us, I mean, it's have you been to Iceland yet? Or?
No, I haven't.
Scott will take you there. Anyways, it was absolutely amazing, right, Jim? I mean, I sat there and I just exhaled, and I'm like, oh wait, dummy, start taking photos, and then we started capturing it. But when Jim did his edits, my sister Maria saw your edits and saw mine, and she's like, well, his looked like it was a real place. Because I went overboard on the structure. She did say, well, yours looks more like a movie, or it just, I don't know, did it really look like that? And to me, I love that grit look, my sports grit look. I love that look.
Yep.
But when she saw Jim's, she looked and said, so when's the family going? And that's what's so cool about us photographers when we travel. We're inspiring a lot of people that may not be able to go to those places.
Right.
So please don't ever forget that if some of these people may not have the either the means, the physical ability, or the time, so they're living through your photography. And I'll tell you, Jim, those photos that you did in Iceland motivated my family to want us to plan a trip.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, so Jim, your advice on editing is what? Don't go overboard?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is take it slow. Like, it's not a race. There's no art emergencies, right? So it's not like you have to hurry up and get the photo edited. It's perhaps hard to overcome your excitement when you get home from a trip and you have photos like this, but you don't have to hurry. So take your time, because I find like when I'm hurrying, I get a little bit sloppy, and I'm just like, you get that visual kind of what I call sugar rush of color in some images if you push too far. And it's better if you just kind of slow down, take it a little bit easy. And then also, like I just did with the masking there with the structure AI, is just focus on targeted elements of the photo and figure out kind of what you want to do and where you want to put whatever edit into the specific part of the photo. In other words, use masking, right? Regardless of what tool you have, whether it's Luminar, Lightroom, Photoshop, whatever. But those targeted edits, it really makes a huge difference on the final outcome versus just hitting sliders and just going global with everything. Then your photo can kind of turn into something that might look like a lab experiment at times.
That's really good advice. And I've also heard some people say that sometimes they'll walk away from the computer for a little bit, or like come back to it the next morning and just kind of make sure that it's where you want it to be. Yeah, and that's that whole 50-70% rule. To a lot of coming from video, your film days, they say 50 to 70. So do it and then go back, dial it down to 50%. The overall effect. Yeah, and then inch your way up until it starts to look realistic to you and not overboard. Overkill. Yeah. So someone said, I'm with Robert Vanelli. I love to overcook. Yeah.
I mean, we've all kind of made them a little crispy at times, and sometimes you still do. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you like it, you like it. It just depends on what you're trying to do. But I always find that I like my edits better when I'm a little bit slower, more methodical about it, and I use the masking tools. And to your point, take a break, walk away, because I also think your eyes get a little desensitized to the amount of color or structure or detail, whatever. And so if you take a break and come back to it, you might realize like, oh, I might have overdone that because it didn't really look like that, or whatever. So yeah, that's a good point as well. Awesome. Well, thank you. Right. And Jim, again, just to touch base, what were the gear you used? What lens was that again? Was it the 14? Yeah, this is a 14 mil. It's a Sony prime lens, a 14 millimeter f1.8, which I was shooting landscapes with, but I also brought it because that wide angle and that f1.8 is great for the night sky. Trying to catch some aurora, which we caught a little bit of, as you know. So yeah, which I wasn't part of that group. That's okay, Jim. But hey, you gotta bring up. You always have to bring up some old wounds. All right, but yes, but Jim. So the camera, like I said, the gear, which I've learned to embrace, that 14 to 24, which you and Scott had me doing in Utah, which was really cool. And then the other something I do want to mention was, I was always under the impression if I wanted the waterfalls, for example, to be nice and silky smooth, I need a 30th of a second, a long exposure. And Jim corrected me on that and said, what? Sometimes, what was it, Jim? You're saying you only need yeah, like a half second could work. Like this one here is actually 2.5 seconds. But it just depends on the image. I think this one here, this wasn't a waterfall, but it is moving water, and that's 1 second here. On Diamond Beach. Gorgeous. Man, I was with him on that too. But but again, this is where that laboring under correct knowledge, because as a portrait photographer, honestly, I'm sitting there thinking, wait, if I want that to be blurry, Yeah.
I need a long exposure. And Jim was showing me, hey, look, you don't need to be that long of an exposure, and it worked out great. You don't have your ice one, your ice cave image by any chance?
Oh, I have like inside the ice cave.
Yeah. If you have that.
I have that. That's an HDR.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
let me get it.
Yeah. So while he's pulling that up,
here we go. This one.
Let's see if this is the one. Yep, that's it. So typically with HDR,
yeah.
I was doing one stop under, one stop over.
Right.
And just do 3 shots. Why? Because honestly, I just didn't want to do 5. And I didn't want to have to go searching through all of them. But Jim brought out a good point. If you're going to do 3 stops or 3 images,
3 brackets, yeah,
do 2 stops under, 2 stops over.
Right.
But in this scene, because the dynamic range was so great, how many bracketing shots did you take?
Yeah, this was actually only 3, but I had to start. I think it was 0, +2, and +4. Like a lot of people will always center their brackets regardless, and I don't. I tend to adjust the bracket and start either darker or brighter depending on the scene. And because this one was so dark inside the cave, but we had a sunset outside the cave, I started with, it might have been -1, might have been my first one, and then +1 and +3. But I went to a off-center set of brackets.
That's an interesting technique too. I never thought to do it that way. That makes sense though.
And experiment. That's the biggest key. But obviously, you don't want to experiment while you're there on location. So experiment before you go. But Jim, seriously, I mean, I joke all the time how you're dead to me for making me eat that baby puffin. However, your knowledge of travel photography has definitely made this guy exciting. I mean, I'm with Scott in Utah, and I looked at Jim and said, "Oh, look." I joked, "Oh, a rock. Wow, look, another rock. Oh, gee, another rock." And both of them said, "Vanelli, pretend you're doing a portrait and watch how the sun is coming down, kissing the edge of the ridge." And when I looked at it as a portrait, I got really excited.
Oh, cool.
And that's where they motivated me. It was you,
they helped
Mathew,
you see
Scott.
A new way.
Yes. And so I thank you for that. And by surrounding yourselves with other people that are doing what you want, that's where these travel photography photos come back. I mean, I even did the lighthouse when I was away from you, and my sister commented on Facebook, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And I'm thinking, you don't say nothing about my portraits anymore.
Yeah.
But yet this one is amazing. And she said, "Wow, I really love lighthouses, and what you did with this image just hit home to her." But again, that just by taking those few quick tips, that they gave me, and then now applying them there. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. It's just fun anyway, right?
Yes.
Taking photos is fun.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Supposed to be. Yes. Until baby puffins get involved. Yeah. But Jim, I know you're heading off now. Where are you heading? You're heading to the airport.
To Oregon, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for taking time. And I know you're the type that likes to be at the airport 3 hours ahead of schedule. So thank you for doing this for us. And you got to meet Scott in Utah.
Yeah, no, it was great hanging out with him. I've been a fan for years, of course. So it was great to hang out and chat. And as you know, we laughed quite a bit.
Yes.
So
and Jim, I'm sorry, I don't mean to embarrass you. Yes, I do mean to embarrass him. We got to meet you, Scott. Jim drives us home, and Jim stops the car and turns to Vanelli, "I love you, man. Thank you so much." I got to meet the Scott Kelby.
Yeah.
And to me, in fact, I was with Scott. I was showing him landscape photos, and Scott's going, "Oh my God, these are amazing! Wow, Vanelli!" I go, "Scott, those are Jim's."
Those are Jim's.
nice.
So, well, thank you.
Well, safe travels to you as well, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, bye.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And again, I mean, I did buy the 14-24 lens. My buddies from Sigma hooked me up on it, and they got me excited about doing it. So now it's break time.
Yes, it is. So coming up next, we will wrap up the show, give away prizes, and have some trivia questions.
See you.
Here we go now.
Welcome, my name is Brett Malley. I'm a KelbyOne instructor, and in this class you'll learn how to do your own light painting special effects for any kind of composite and making it magical. From how to capture really fast, brilliant flame and getting it nice and sharp and you can warp it, do your own creation, to even painting with fiber optic little toys, children's toys, the lighter, right, sparking that, phones, using your phone as a light source to then light paint, and even flashlights, things like covering your hand over the flashlight to get all these beautiful streaks and things that you can completely manipulate in post-production to make any kind of magical scene possible. I'm Brett Malley. Check my latest class out on KelbyOne.com.
Hi, I'm Mary Bell. Come join me in my new class on creative portrait photography using outdoor light. Have you ever struggled with using midday sun to light your portraits and light your subject? I'm going to show you some creative ways in which you can play with midday harsh sun. We're also going to play with using architecture in your frame to frame your subjects and or to make beautiful fine artwork. We'll use leading lines, play with composition. We will hide from the sun, show you creative ways to use midday sun. Additionally, we're also going to dance around with some creative ways to use golden hour sun. And guess what, guys? In this class, we're going to combine harsh midday sun with diffuse light. So come join me now and watch my new class on KelbyOne.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
And we're back. So this has been an extremely educational segment so far.
Yeah.
And now we have a couple things. We're going to do the trivia question.
Yep. And a Photoshop tip this segment, and also we'll give away our prizes. But before we do that, we have a special guest that Vanelli hooked us up with.
Yep, Mike Kubeisy. So Mike, as you know, Cabasi is a Hollywood photographer for NCIS and all the major shows. He had the opportunity last season to be on The Chosen. And so he's in some extremely beautiful exotic locations. But we had a long discussion about memory cards for travel photography. Because when I was heading over to Iceland and to England and Scotland, I kept thinking, well, what would happen if these cards fail? And that's a very, very expensive trip.
Right.
To have your cards fail. He, of all people, I mean, his bottom line, his memory cards can't fail because they can't reshoot everything he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so he's a great person to talk to about this, and it just so happens he's in the middle of switching over to different memory cards.
Yeah.
And he's going to give us some quick tips on what he uses that taught me quite a bit.
So let's hear what he has to say.
Hey V, congratulations on hosting The Grid today. If I recall right, the last thing you hosted was the Boy Scouts car wash, and that was a success. Good job, buddy. Hey, so the travel photography, location photography topic is a good one. I don't do much of it though. But the one thing we definitely have in common, if you go spend a lot of money on a vacation trip and you're shooting on a big card, 256 gigs or something like that, and the card messes up, well, you're out of luck. You have to go to get a professional service, pay hundreds of dollars to recover those images. It's my personal feeling when shooting on the set, and I happen to be on the set today of The Chosen, I'll shoot like 64 gig cards. I used to shoot smaller, 32 gig cards, but my file size with my camera is larger. Therefore, I use a 64 gig card. That way, should something malfunction, I don't lose everything of the day. I think that makes sense to everybody. Anyway, right on KelbyOne, Kelby Watchers, The Grid, Photoshop, Lightroom. Y'all do great today. Have a wonderful time watching The Grid and Vanelli knock it out of the park. Blessings to you all. And remember, if you're not shooting it, someone else will. See ya.
Oh, that was so sweet of him to do that for us.
And he wanted to be on live. We tried.
Yeah.
But on that location, it's not like he could tell everyone to be quiet while he does the things for us.
Excuse me, I'm on the grid.
Yeah. So yeah, could you imagine that? Yeah. So what I asked Mike to do last night is if he could record this for us, just in case we couldn't get him on live.
Right.
But one of the things I absolutely love, the tip he gave was, don't always go with the largest memory cards, because in his line of work, again, he's old school. His attitude is what if that memory card failed? So he likes to go with 2 smaller cards, and then a few, of course, larger ones.
Right.
But the smaller cards, if he knows he's going to be shooting a lot that day, he'll take the smaller cards out, photograph on half of them, and then swap them out.
Yeah.
So if, God forbid, something happened, he was able to at least have half the images.
Right.
And not get fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I know sometimes too, when people are traveling, I've heard them taking like different drives to like a backup hard drive that you can just plug in your SD card and then
exactly. But most importantly, don't put them all together.
Right.
Because if, God forbid, let's say you put them in your camera bag and you lose your camera bag, well, now not only did you lose your bag, but you lost all your images. So your backups, put that in your computer bag, your suitcase, or something else.
Okay. Yeah.
And then don't delete your stuff off the memory cards until you get home.
Okay.
So this way, the 3-2-1 backup, the book I wrote, 3 copies of your data, 2 stored locally, 1 stored off-site. Use the same concept. Your memory cards could be one of those backups.
Right.
And then, of course, your computer. And when you're on location, it's almost next to impossible to upload to the internet or to the cloud because of bandwidth issues.
Sure.
So put a third drive as your third backup and just put it someplace else so you're not worried about it.
Love that.
Right?
Thank you.
Awesome.
Really quick, let's do our trivia. You want to?
You got it. Fire away.
All right. So, our trivia question today is, who has the largest camera collection? Who owns the largest travel collection? Whoever answers correctly first will win the On One No Noise 2023. So I'll let our moderator today is Juan pick out the winner, and when we're ready, we'll announce the prizes and whoever's the winner.
So who owns
the largest camera collection is the question.
Interesting.
Yep. And then I know you said you have a Photoshop tip, so while we're waiting for that, can you give us a Photoshop tip?
Yeah, perfect. So, smart objects. So in Photoshop, it doesn't matter which plugin you're using. It could be our plugin, Luminar Neo, it could be On One, it could be Topaz, whatever plugin. The new plugins nowadays are also smart filters. So if you're about to edit an image, do your whatever you want in Photoshop, right click and create a smart object. Now by creating a smart object, now you have a smart filter. So you run your favorite filter, it opens up your favorite plugin, it opens up, you do your thing, exit, go back into Photoshop. Now you'll see that underneath the smart object, because if you decide to go back, maybe today, tomorrow, a year from now, and you want to make a slight change, you just double click on that plugin that you had, and since it's a smart filter, it'll fire up that plugin.
Right.
And now you'll have a history of all your edits. You make your changes to it, bring it back into Photoshop, and now it's a non-destructive editing workflow.
That's what I was going to say, non-destructive, because you converted it to a smart object first, so it remembers everything, and anything you do to it now can always be edited again later.
Yep. And keep in mind, that will increase your file size.
Right.
Back in the old days when, hard drives were expensive.
Background layer.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Control J, jump the background layer to the new layer, and now only work on that one. So if you screw up.
So it's protected.
Yeah. So I joked with Scott one day when I was watching him doing an edit. I go, hey, what if you want to go back and edit? And Scott just looked at me with this. It was priceless. He goes, Vanelli, I'm sure of my edit. And he said, and the way he said that, he goes, I caught myself I don't ever go back and make those changes. So once he's done, he's done. And my wedding photographer friends say the same thing. They go back, they do their edit, they're done. They don't go back a year from now, well, let me revisit that image.
Well, and I think too with the camera raw now, if you're editing, it's got that sidecar file, which then saves that information. So you don't have to be also non-destructive because the sidecar information is non-destructive too.
Yeah. So that was my tip for Photoshop is use smart objects to create smart filters for a non-destructive editing workflow.
Awesome, thank you. You know, I'd written down a couple of tips for travel photography, and one of them I'm just going to throw out there and see what you think about this. It was a photographer that we've worked with before, a really well-known photographer, and they had told me that when they travel, they wrap their lenses in their clothing to save the space in their luggage. And so I thought, hey, that's a pretty good idea. And I'm curious how you feel about that.
But they're talking carry-on luggage, not check.
Yeah, like they'll wrap their lens or wrap their camera in a jacket. Yeah. So it's adding that padding for your equipment while at the same time it's the clothing that you need to wear.
But to make sure.
I'm wondering how you feel about that.
Well, as long as it's carry-on, it's fine.
Okay.
I would never check it.
Oh yeah, no. You always carry on, right?
Yeah.
But
God forbid if you check it and TSA does their thing, or you saw them playing football.
No.
I would never do that.
Yeah.
But
so how do you feel about that? Is that kosher to wrap your gear in clothing?
Well, you know what I saw the other day?
What?
A woman took a pillowcase, shoved all of her clothes in it, zipped it up, and brought that on as a carry-on. And I'm like, we can
in a pillowcase?
Yeah, so it looks like it's a pillow and not considered an extra.
What?
So think about that. So if that works for you, if putting your lens, because I will admit, and Peak Design, they probably hate me.
Yeah.
I abuse my camera. So you saw my computer bag.
Yeah.
I way overstuff. So that could be a good tip. If and again, I fly. Thank God, I go to Orlando to fly. Melbourne, Florida, we only have small planes.
Okay.
So the first time I went to Melbourne, they wanted me to check my think tank bag.
Oh, yeah.
And so thank God I had a really good.
Like even though it's supposed to be carry-on, they force you to check it because it's a smaller plane. So they're like, it's going under no matter what.
Yeah, so thank God the pilot laughed because the woman said it was a weight distribution thing. And I was like, what? So you're telling me you take all the thin people and make them sit on this side of the plane, heavy set people like me over, wait, some of you heavy people switch places? The pilot thought that was the funniest thing ever. And he said, you know what, just give me your bag. I'll put it with mine. And he did.
That's nice.
But the second time I went, they did this. So I just pulled my most expensive glass and my most expensive camera out of my bag. And
sit it on your lap?
And I had it with me.
What?
And they put the other stuff.
Wow, that's painful. Like I'm like cringing.
I was mortified, but that was the only way for me to get to where I was heading.
Yeah.
And I learned my lesson to where I will not take puddle jumpers anymore.
When you have camera gear.
Yeah, not when I have gear like that. So that worked out for me. But it's very interesting, very creative about the coat. And I see nothing wrong with that because you're carrying it on. So that's, just take extra.
Yeah, like
caution.
you're able to still kind of control that it's not going to be damaged or anything like that. You can choose where it's going to end up gently being placed, and then make sure to get it right out when it's done. So
yeah. So that's what other tip? Do you have another tip you said?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do know that I remember when we were talking about today's show that you had said that you had shot some lightrooms. Like you were first in Utah. Oh, lighthouses.
Yep.
Yeah, I said lightroom. Lightroom's on my mind.
Yeah. So
So I wanted to hear about your tips on how to shoot a lighthouse.
So I flew into Milwaukee, did a photo shoot with the members of my team, the Luminar Coffee Break. They met up with me there. We photographed lighthouses, drove 4 hours to Green Bay, photographed ugly waterfalls, just to show people what we could do with black and white. And then I went to Eagle River and taught a class over there. The lighthouse one, it was a spur of the moment. We looked up, and some of the tips I gave were, one, definitely the time of day. Figure out what time of day you're going. In my case, I had no control over that, so I did have to use HDR. I bracketed 3 shots because with a lighthouse, typically it's white, the lighthouse itself. So the contrast between the lighthouse, the white light, the tower, and the house itself with a red roof, and of course the green grass. There's a lot of contrast going on.
Right.
HDR was a great way to go.
That's smart.
And then the other one, since I'm cheap. I don't want to spend a lot of money on a tilt shift lens. Tilt shift lenses are really expensive.
They are so expensive.
And if I were to do a lot, or if I made money off of my travel photography, then I'd invest in one. But in this case, when I shot it, I made sure to angle my camera ever so slightly to minimize the keystoning of the lighthouse, looking like it was falling backwards behind me. And when I did that, I just used our program, and other programs have it, where you can adjust the vertical slider of it to where it straightened up the lighthouse, and it made it look real. I mean, that's where my sister was excited about it, and it was awesome. So don't look at what you see, what you envision it to be. Another tip I gave was make sure you take photos of the plaque that comes with the lighthouse.
Oh, right.
So not only does it give it a historical perspective, but you can actually use it in the shot with a lighthouse. To where maybe it's not in a perfect position, cut it out, put it in the bottom corner to make it look like it's part of the scene.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing a collage, now you have your beautiful lighthouses, elements of the lighthouses, and now there's that plaque.
I love that tip too, and not just for necessarily lighthouses, but when you're traveling in general, if you shoot something, then take a picture of that plaque, so it helps jog your memory of like, what was I taking a picture of, and giving you that context.
And don't forget your cell phone. I mean, you snap a couple shots with the cell phone, that gives you your GPS coordinates. So now you can always go back afterwards and say, okay, where's that? Look where this location is.
Yeah.
Here's the GPS
nice
coordinates based from that. And not to mention the fact, all of our phones nowadays usually gives you that year in review.
Right.
And then you're like, oh yeah, you know what? Then you go back to your portfolio and say, you know what? At the end of the year for Christmas, maybe I'll make a calendar.
Find some hidden gems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are my tips.
Listen to this comment that came in too about traveling from Kevin Mullet. He says after an incident that he had, all of his cameras and lenses now travel in dry bags.
Ooh.
And then he also said that he sticks feminine pads in the camera compartments, I'm guessing for padding.
Interesting.
So there's another idea.
See, and this is what I love best about our photography world now. And please, for the love of God, please don't ever say you're an amateur. Call yourself an unpaid photographer or a photo enthusiast, for God's sake, because you've seen a lot of these people's images. They look like the pros.
Right.
They just absolutely look amazing. They all have incredible tips that you may not even realize you're doing. And you look back and go, hey, that's pretty cool. The old attitude, I give you $1, you give me $1, we're left with $1 each. But if you give me an idea, I give you an idea, now we have 2 ideas that we can share.
Yeah.
So keep in mind, if you haven't been photographing that long, please don't hesitate to think that some things that you're doing are valuable even to pros.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to share those tips.
True. That's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
I do see that we have some prizes that are ready to give away.
Nice.
First of all, the Platypod goosenecks. Can you see? Do you want to read? Do you want to give away the prizes?
Tim Sheehan.
Tom Sheehan.
Oh, Tom. So you better see if I get, and I drive like this. I'm Mr. Bagoo. So, Tom, congratulations.
You win the Platypod goosenecks.
All right, you better get to the next one. I think it says Tracy.
No. Well, first it's the travel photography book, and Tina Ide, you won that. Congratulations.
Awesome.
For the Light It, Shoot It, Retouch It. Now you can.
You say it because
Tracy. That does say Tracy.
Okay. I feel like Steve Harvey right now when he did the Miss America pageant.
Yeah.
And called the wrong name. All right.
That's
so
embarrassing.
So there's Tracy
Cholin, I believe, and the V flat is going to Dale Bales, and then finally we have the trivia winner, which is winning the On One No Noise today, and that is going to Jerry Plus. And the answer to who has the largest camera collection is Delish Pareka, and he's a freelance photographer. He made it in the Guinness Book of World Records in 2003 for his collection of 2,634 antique cameras.
Wow.
And then he went on to shatter his own record, acknowledging that he owned 4,425 cameras.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
Talk about dedication and compassion.
Just like those antiques. I kind of love when you go into like a shop and then you see those old cameras, like, you know, even the film nowadays, like before that wasn't a thing, but it used to be like the Polaroid cameras or this or that, but now even the cameras where you load the film in.
Oh yeah, it's considered old.
Are antique.
But the Rolleiflex, the twin reflector, my father had it and he gave it to me.
Yeah.
And so I have that. My sister's holding on to it right now. But to me, that, again, I would never use it because he actually asked me to photograph his 90th birthday using it. And I looked at him like, what, are you insane? I said, I'm sorry, I'll use the digital.
Gosh.
Yeah, no.
I remember, you know, coming from the film world, we had the Bolex. We would say like that was like the old kind of cinematic look and grainy kind of feel. And I remember we had some of our filmmaker friends shoot at my wedding with a Bolex, so we would have that old look for footage.
That's awesome. But yes, I give respect to the photographers that came before us with their ability to capture light without being able to see a monitor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that's what...
Well, I remember being a snob when digital was coming out. I have to admit, I was like, I'm never switching from film. I was like one of those.
Nope, I don't know where it would be if I didn't switch over.
Yeah,
so,
think of all the money and time it saves too, gosh.
Awesome.
I do have 2 more prizes to give away, the Luminar Neo for a month, and one of them
that's for a year.
Or for a year.
Yep,
okay, I'm sorry, for a year. Tim Bird, I see you in the YouTube chat, and you win the Luminar Neo for a month. And so does Dave Breen. We're giving away 2. So Dave Breen, congratulations. Anyone that won a prize today, please email us at gridprize@KelbyOne.com and claim it by this Friday.
Nice. All right. And we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I did have that before and after image. If they have it, if they don't.
Oh, maybe in the control room. There it is.
They do have it. All right, perfect. Here, I was showing Scott this image. And Scott goes, hey, I know this guy. And we were joking about this, but look at before and after. Here's what the photographer saw.
Right.
This is what we saw. Now all of a sudden, boom. That's how I envisioned it.
And that's what you did in post.
Exactly. So, and keep in mind, yes, I used Luminar Neo for this. We have a new tool, a new extension called Magic Light, and it made the lantern glow, and it's amazing.
Wow.
But what I notice is when we do this, people go overboard. So if you look at this image, think the leading character, if this were a movie, is the man in the boat. He's the leading character. The light, the lantern, is a supporting character. So whatever tools you use, you're going to lighten that, you're going to make that lantern glow. Well, now he's going to appear dark. So you have to throw light onto him. And show the before again. Notice how the overall image itself, once we get to it, is, look at that. He's dark, the background is light, but by darkening the background, now our eye isn't focused on the background, the eye is focused on the gentleman in the canoe, well, it's not, whatever it's called, his little boat. Look at that. It just gives more of a cinematic type look to the scene. So once again, my tip is don't photograph what you see, but what you envision it to be. And then use the tools at your disposal to enhance some of the light, the subject, darken the background, play with it, work on it, and from there, you're gonna have just some absolutely amazing travel shots. I wish I could meet that gentleman to give him that, because I'm sure a lot of people haven't done it the way I did it. But from a portrait portrait perspective, I would have had a flash. No, if this were,
if you had one.
So I would have a flash on the scene. If this were for a commercial, where you could stop everything. So I make sure that bird stay. I probably would have used a stuffed bird. Pause everything. Let me get the light exposed for the element I can't control, which is the background. Once that's dialed in, the guy is going to be almost pitch dark.
Right.
Throw some light on him. There we have it. Well, you can't do that in the real world. But learn from it.
Right.
And do it in your editing tools.
Sure.
And now, if you ever have a chance where you're photographing, let's say,
and then always expose not for the highlights, right?
Exactly. So in that case, so let's say if this were, well, not yet, but soon, when your children are going to prom, and you have this beautiful sunset with them in it, well, photograph it to where the sunset looks beautiful, they look dark.
Right.
Throw a little flash onto them. Now it balances out everything, and that's what we did with that image.
And put some orange gel, some CTO on the flash.
To match it.
Yep.
So, yeah, CTO, convert to color temperature orange.
You have all these little, like...
Yeah, I do this all the time.
No, but the analogies or whatever.
Yep, and I talk out loud to where people get confused. Like, you're talking to me? Shh, no, I'm talking to myself. So, well, this was fun.
Yeah, it really was. And everybody's telling us thank you for a great show. We appreciate all of our viewers. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you to our crew, Jason, Juan, Eric, Ron. And thank you to you, Vanelli. It's been so much fun working with you on this show, knowing you for the past 13 years. Thank you for being so generous and kind and just really, you're like the best networking person I know.
Oh, thank you.
So.
Thank you. And again, I want to throw a shout out to Scott again. Scott, thank you for trusting me on this. Well, he actually put on Facebook, this could end badly.
I saw that.
but yes, that did get me a little nervous last. That's why I woke up at 4 a.m. I woke up at 4, not just because of that, but I did wake up at 4 a.m., wrote some of my scripts down. We had technical difficulties, which we bombed right through.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of technical difficulties that y'all probably didn't even realize. But
I sat back and honestly in bed, I'm like, if I blow this, all of my photographer friends are going to be upset with me saying, great, Vanelli, now Kelby is never going to allow us to come on and take over the show. So...
that's not true.
And then in my mind, I kept thinking, he's Johnny Carson, and here I am, David Letterman, coming in for the Tonight Show. Trying to fill a seat. And by the way, if you notice, Christina's sitting in this chair because this is Scott's chair. She's a producer. Producers can do whatever they want. Me personally, I wouldn't sit in Scott's chair. That's his.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I do what I want. I'm just kidding. No, and we weren't able to get Scott and Erik today because I think there was some technical issues since they were on location. But they do say hello to everyone. They will be back next time. So we'll see you guys next week, and Scott and Erik will be back.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Here we go now.